Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt in Studio West. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, that is Congressman John Campbell, formerly a member of the House Financial Services Committee and the Budget Committee. And so he can explain for us, is it likely that the Republicans who voted to pass the budget rule moments ago, 216 to 215, that any of them would defect on the budget itself?
That's very unlikely. It is, if you want to stop something, it is much easier and more effective to use the rule to do it than it is to actually vote no on the floor. Unless you just want to let the thing go to the floor, you know it's going to pass, you're okay with that, but you want a no vote. Now that's fine if Republicans had a 20-seat majority, but they don't. So there aren't more than, what, 2 or 3 people that could do that if they wanted to. So I think that's unlikely. I think if they voted for it in the rule, they'll vote for it on the floor.
Now, I wrote a column and filed it already for Fox News tomorrow, before the announcement by the president and Scott Bessent and this remarkable market rally, which we'll talk about, suggesting that market turmoil would be increased, volatility would increase if the budget failed. Do you agree with that?
You mean if
budget
the tax
did not
increase,
pass?
I think, yes, I think markets and the economy is expecting that the 2016 tax cuts, 2017 tax cuts are going to be extended with modifications. And we don't know what those modifications are going to be yet. And in fact, I don't think Speaker Johnson knows what those modifications are going to be yet. That's something that will be worked out over the next month to 2 months, hopefully not much longer than that. But the market's expecting at the moment that there will be a tax bill, there will be an extension of the debt limit, and that all this will happen sometime by the 4th of July.
And there will be a border wall, energy productivity enhancements, and a huge defense dollop.
Right, and that all that will be a part of it. And if that breaks down or blows up, I think markets would not like that.
So give me your general reaction to the week that was, John, because you follow this fairly closely. I know you're like me. You never sell in a panic. You're an investor, not a speculator or a trader. What'd you make of this whole funny week?
Yeah, and to that last point, as I explained to a number of my friends, I have not bought or sold anything in this whole last week. So I like where I had my portfolio positioned for the long term. Still think it's good for the long term. And I literally didn't buy or sell a thing. So I just stayed where I was. What I think is there's a couple things going on here. First, the market itself. Realize that this market is extremely high in any metric you want to look at versus the Buffett metric, which is what is the market value versus gross domestic product versus GDP, or in terms of price earnings ratios, or in terms of what the return of the market is versus the return on bonds. On all these ratios, it's as high as it's ever been. It's 1929 level highs. So there's a bunch of people, and I'm number myself amongst those, that think it just can't stay here, that fundamentals eventually do matter, that buying stock in a company because you think someone else will buy it for more than you paid for it runs out eventually, and eventually you want that company to make money, generate cash, and send some of it to you. And so I think the market had to come down at some point. We didn't know what the trigger was going to be. So the Trump tariffs have been a trigger. They may not be the only trigger, they may not be the last trigger, but the fact that the market came down, I think, is actually healthy. I think it's something that needed to occur. Now, it's happened really quickly and so forth. But then the other thing is, of course, the tariffs themselves. And people in the market are generally wealthier people. They're 10%, top 10 people that are in there every day, that are writing about it, that are talking about it. You know, they're top 10% people. They have a lot of money in the market. They don't want it to go down ever. They see it go down, they panic, and they rip on the tariffs. And they're remembering their economics class that they took in 1982 at Cornell. And there they learned that tariffs were bad. And so they figured tariffs are bad. I don't think it's at all that simple. And I actually, Donald Trump's a very smart guy. And he has accomplished a lot of things that people didn't think he could accomplish, whether it was winning in 2016 and winning again in 2024, or dodging an assassin's bullet, or having all these lawsuits against him and coming through on the other end. Kind of like an Elon Musk. Elon Musk Tesla should not have succeeded. SpaceX should not have succeeded. A bunch of these things he did should not, but they did, because these guys are smart and they know what they're doing, and they get out there. And I think Trump was doing that. And he surrounded himself with a lot of smart people. And I believe, I don't know they're doing the right thing, but I have faith that they are doing the right thing, and that the world order of trade does need reordering. And I know you're talking about China, and that's obviously the big bugaboo, and that's the one that needs to be changed the most. But that's not the only one. We can't be a country of just software engineers. We have to make stuff again. And we have to not only grow our food, but we have to make stuff for defense, and we have to make stuff for our computers, because we're so reliant on these computers these days. And we have to make stuff we just need to make stuff again. And we for a long time, we decided that, let other people do that. Let slave labor in China do it. And he's bringing us back to where I think we need to be. So I'm supportive of what's going on.
Well, I all week long I was saying, wait 6 months and I'll tell you what I think about it. Took 6 days. And I like clarity about China. They are our enemy. They don't play fair. They cheat. They steal intellectual property. They lie to us. They renege on deals. They bludgeon their allies. Cambodia, for example, is simply a vassal state of China now. And so I was happy to wait and see, but I don't think the bond market wanted to wait and see 6 months. Do you think that added to the accelerant for his 90-day pause?
The bond market's been all over the place, and there's a lot of reasons I'm reading about it. I don't know what's right and what's wrong, and I'm not sure the people writing about it, even though that's what they do every day, know for sure. But there's a lot of belief that what's happened with the 10-year interest rate, which shot back up just in the last 48 hours, was about trades unwinding. And without boring your audience, both on TV and radio completely, that people had to sell bonds to take care of debt obligations and other obligations that they have. And so before we know I'm not sure we know what the bond market's saying yet. And so I think we need to be careful about that. But it's not just about China. I just want to give you one little example. As I think you know, I have a small herd of cattle and a cattle ranch in Kansas. And so this is amongst the markets that I follow. And there are a lot of our trading partners. We make great beef in the United States, right? We raise great cattle. And a lot of people around the world want to buy our beef because they've watched American Westerns and they know we drive cattle across the plains and that, we've been about cattle and beef since there's been cattle and beef.
Wait, before you go full cowboy, let me go to break. I want people to be able to see this and hear this. So we're going to go to break and come back after the break on the Salem News Channel, Salem Radio Network, all the affiliates. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching, keep listening. We're going to hear about John Campbell, cowboy, and his cattle, and where he can't sell his cattle. I've never seen the cattle, actually, so I don't even know if this is real, but we'll find out. Stay tuned. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt with Cowboy Campbell. John Campbell is talking about cattle and cows and non-tariff trade barriers. Who's not buying your cows, John?
Oh, that's such great cattle cattle ranching music. Being cattle ranchers, tough business. We'd like to export beef, but what a lot of countries do is they put non-tariff, Trump talked a lot about non-tariff barriers. What a lot of countries, the EU and a whole lot of friendly countries, do on American beef is they put a health and safety standard on it. You say, well, what's wrong with that? Nothing, except that they don't have that same health and safety standard on their domestically produced beef. So they put a different standard on our beef than they do on theirs to make ours more expensive, along with the tariff, so it won't compete with their domestically produced beef. So why are they doing that? They do that because they want to protect their own beef, their own cattle industry that they have. Okay, I get that. That's why this whole notion that we've had free trade since World War II is not true. It's countries all over the world except the US, have been protecting particular industries that they want to protect. And in many cases, they have a real reason to do that. countries want to grow their own food. I get that. You don't want to be dependent on another country for food. But, if you're going to do that and you're going to protect that industry in your country, then we get to protect some in ours. I mean, Trump talked a lot about the tariffs on rice in Japan. Rice in Japan is like bread for the rest of the world. It is the staple. It is the thing everybody eats. A lot of places can produce rice pretty darn cheap and ship it into Japan. And they would put all the Japanese rice farmers out of business. They don't want to do that. So they tariff all their rice. That's fine. That's great. Okay, maybe we don't want to put our car factories out of business. So maybe we tariff Japanese cars 100%. You tariff your rice. That's fine. Protect your rice industry. We're going to protect our car industry. So we're going to tariff cars 100%.
And by the way, in Wisconsin, I've always been flummoxed by the fact that Canada won't let us sell Wisconsin dairy products in Canada. I just think that's nuts. It's
because
crazy.
They're protecting their dairy industry because they think that not just Wisconsin, but Minnesota and Michigan and New York and all that are close to the border that we're gonna send dairy products in there, and maybe they'll be cheaper, maybe they'll be better, maybe we'll underprice them for a while, whatever, and it's gonna drive their dairy industry. So they're protecting their dairy industry. Fine, I get it. That's their right to do that. But then it's our right to protect some of our industries that we want to protect. If you're not going to let our dairy products in there, maybe we don't let some of your stuff into here. And so that's why this is a give and take. It's a tit for tat. China's the worst offender by far. No question about that. Absolutely no question about that. And that's the big kahuna here. But it's not just about China.
All right, last question. What about the 10% minimum tariff, which is staying in place? One of the explanations I've seen, I don't try and read Trump's mind, that's a fool's game, is that he made a lot of noise, and at the end of the day, there's a new 10% global tariff that people are happy with.
So what's your question then?
Do you think that's what he did? That he just made a lot of smoke and noise so that he could get this done? The 10% for the world and China gets hammered.
Well, I don't. I think they will have, as he said, bespoke. That's what the term that Secretary Bessent said today was they were going to do bespoke negotiations with all these 70 or 75 countries. So they're going to do bilateral negotiations, just the U.S. and whatever, with all these countries because of what I just went through. Each country is different. Each country's tariffs are different. Each country's industries and things they want to protect of themselves are different. And in each case, what they ship to us is different that we buy from them. So I don't think it's just about China. I think it is about all these other countries. I think the 10% is partially there because it's Trump continuing to say, all right, we're backing off for 90 days, but we're reordering things. We are reordering world trade.
And so I'm still in my 6-month wait.
And he wants revenue.
Cowboy John Campbell, thank you for joining us. Come back next week. We'll check the beef futures. Thank you, friend. I got to tell people.